All right, so today we're diving into something that, on the surface, might seem pretty simple, giving an office tour. You might think, hey, I work here, I know my way around, piece of cake, right? But I've got a stat for you, and it's kind of mind-blowing. Get this. A whopping 80% of a visitor's impression of a company is formed in the first 7 minutes of a tour.
It's true, and it's something that's so easy to overlook. We often underestimate just how much impact those initial moments have. We're not just showing people around, are we? We're shaping their whole perception of the company.
It's like that saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression, right?
Right.
So no pressure, right? But those first 7 minutes, got to make them count. I was actually reading this story about a junior executive who was asked to give a last-minute tour to some VIPs.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Talk about pressure.
That's a classic scenario, and it really highlights why having a solid plan, and I'd even say the right vocabulary, can make all the difference.
Okay, speaking of vocabulary, let's talk about how we can, upgrade our language game when giving a tour, make things interesting.
Think of it this way. You wouldn't describe like a gourmet meal with words like blah or stuff, right? Your office tour is no different.
Okay, I'm getting the foodie analogy here. We need to spice things up. So instead of just saying, this is where people work, what's a tastier way to describe a workspace? Instead
of that kind of generic phrase, try painting a picture with your words. You could say something like, this is our collaborative hub where ideas come to life, Notice how the open layout encourages spontaneous brainstorming sessions. And those writable walls, they're not just for decoration, they're where our teams capture their aha moments.
Ooh, I love that. So instead of just seeing desks and chairs, they're getting like a glimpse into the company's creative energy. Now, what about those awkward transitions between spaces? Sometimes it feels like you're just herding cattle down a hallway.
Those transition moments, actually, they're prime real estate for engagement. Instead of that silent march to the next stop, try weaving in some context. For example, as you're walking towards your tech showcase, you could say something like, as we head towards our innovation lab, notice how the energy shifts. You can almost feel the buzz of creativity in the air.
Yeah, it's like you're setting the stage for the next act of the tour. I've definitely experienced those moments where the energy kind of dips and you can practically see the visitor's eyes glazing over.
Exactly. And that's why having a few wow factor moments strategically placed throughout your tour can be a total game changer.
Oh, tell me more about those. What makes a tour really memorable?
Well, think about what makes your company unique, right? Maybe it's a cutting-edge technology you use, a really cool sustainability feature in your building, or even just a stunning view from the top floor.
So, for example, instead of just saying, and this is our server room,
you could say something like, welcome to the brain of our operation. This is where we house the technology that powers our global network. And then maybe throw in a fun fact like, this system processes millions of transactions every minute. That's more than some small countries.
Okay, so you're adding a layer of intrigue and context that goes way beyond just pointing at things.
Exactly. It's about making those spaces come alive with stories and insights that connect to your company's overall mission.
It's like we're not just giving a tour, we're telling the story of the company.
Yeah.
And everyone loves a good story, right? Now, let's get real for a sec. Not every part of an office is a glamorous showcase.
Right.
What about those less exciting areas? Like those long hallways or the copier room. How do we even make those interesting?
Here's a little secret. Even those, what you might consider more mundane areas, they can be opportunities to highlight your company's values and culture. Let's say you're passing by a row of recycling bins. Instead of just walking past, you could say something like, you'll notice these recycling stations strategically placed throughout the office. They're a small but important symbol of our commitment to sustainability, a core value here at Company Name.
Oh, so it's all about connecting the dots, right? Showing how everything, even the recycling, is part of a bigger picture.
Absolutely. And let's not forget those unavoidable moments like passing by a closed-off construction area. You might be tempted to apologize, but instead try saying something like, we're always evolving and growing. This area is currently undergoing a transformation to accommodate our expanding team. We're excited to unveil the final results soon.
Yeah, you've turned a potential negative into a positive. It's like you're saying, hey, we're successful enough to need more space.
Exactly. And it just reinforces that image of a dynamic, forward-thinking company.
Okay, so far we've talked about upgrading our vocabulary, making even the mundane areas interesting, but what about when we need to give tours to people from different cultures. Things can get lost in translation, right?
Absolutely. That's where things can get really, really interesting. We need to be mindful that what might be considered polite or professional in one culture might not translate well in another.
Oh, yeah. I can see that leading to some awkward moments. Can you give us an example of how those cultural differences might play out during a tour?
Sure. Let's imagine you're showing a group of Japanese executives around and you just casually swing open the CEO's office door to, point out the view. In many Asian cultures, entering the CEO's office without explicit permission is considered a major faux pas.
Wow, I would never have even thought of that. So how do we avoid those cultural landmines, and make sure everyone feels comfortable and respected?
One key area is personal space. What's considered a comfortable distance in, say, North America might be way too close or too distant in other cultures. The key is to be observant. Watch your visitors' body language and mirror their comfortable distance.
Oh, it's like a silent dance, kind of adjusting your steps based on their cues.
Exactly. And it's not just about physical space. It's also about how we structure the tour itself. Some cultures, like Germany, they really value punctuality and directness, so a well-structured tour that sticks to the schedule would be very appreciated.
While in other cultures, like those in Latin America, a more flexible approach with time for relationship building would be more appropriate.
You got it. It's about being adaptable and sensitive to those cultural nuances. Another area to be mindful of is the pace of the tour. Some cultures prefer a slow and methodical approach, while others prefer a more fast-paced, dynamic style.
That reminds me of a story about a colleague who was giving a tour to a mixed group of international clients. And when she showed them the open plan executive area, she got some very different reactions.
Oh, interesting. What happened?
Well, the American visitors loved the transparency, while some of the Asian visitors seemed uncomfortable with the lack of private offices for senior leaders.
That's such a great example. It shows how the same space can be perceived so differently depending on someone's cultural background.
It's amazing.
It highlights just how important it is to understand and respect those differences. And, here's another cultural gem that I think is often overlooked, and that's the power of silence.
Silence. I'm usually trying to fill every moment with chatter.
Right. I mean, in Western cultures, we often feel this need to explain everything. But in some cultures, like Japan, silence is seen as a sign of respect. It allows for contemplation. Knowing when to speak and when to just let the space speak for itself is a true mark of a skilled tour guide.
Oh, I like that. It's like those moments in a movie where the music stops and something important is about to happen.
That's a great analogy. It's about creating those moments of anticipation and allowing your visitors to really absorb the experience.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground already, upgrading our vocabulary, navigating cultural differences. Now I'm curious, how do we actually navigate the physical space of our office in a way that's both engaging and efficient,
That's what we'll unpack next. Turning your office into a story that unfolds seamlessly, taking your visitors on a journey that's informative, entertaining, and leaves a lasting impression. So imagine this. You're not just walking people through a building, are you? You're guiding them through a story. Each space is like a chapter, and you're the narrator, bringing it to life with your words, with your insights.
Ooh, I like that. So how do we become those master storytellers of the office tour?
Well, it all starts with a solid plan, but one that's, flexible enough to adapt to the unexpected. What I like to call the flow formula.
Flow formula. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So first, you got to think about the overall narrative that you want to convey. What are the key messages that you really want your visitors to take away? Then, map out your tour like a story with a clear beginning, a middle, and an end.
So it's like we're creating a roadmap, but with room for detours.
Exactly. You want to have what I call flexible touch points built in. These are moments where you can easily adjust the length or focus of the tour based on your visitors' interests or any time constraints.
Okay, that makes total sense. I could see how that would help avoid those awkward moments where you're either rushing people through or running out of things to say.
Right. And remember, a great story is always tailored to its audience. So personalization is key.
Oh, that's a good point. You wouldn't tell the same story to a group of kindergartners as you would to a room full of CEOs.
Exactly. So before your tour, do your homework. Learn about your visitors' backgrounds, their interests, and what they're hoping to get out of the experience.
So for example, if I'm giving a tour to a group of potential investors, I might focus on things like, growth, innovation, and financial stability.
Exactly. And if you're showing around potential recruits, well, then you might want to highlight the company culture, benefits, career development opportunities. It's all about tailoring that message so it resonates.
I love that. It's like we're giving a custom design experience rather than a one-size-fits-all tour. Now, what about time management? I've been on tours that felt so rushed and others that drag on forever. How do we strike that perfect balance?
Yeah, that's a common challenge. You want to be mindful of everyone's time, right?
Hmm.
But also make sure you're giving them the full experience. So that's why I recommend using what I call the elastic band technique.
Elastic band technique. I'm picturing like a rubber band stretched to its limit.
You're on the right track. Basically have a core route that covers those essential highlights and takes about, say, 70% of your allotted time. Then have some optional segments that you can, stretch or compress based on interest and time.
So it's like having a baseline plan, but with the flexibility to expand or contract certain sections as needed.
Exactly. For example, if your visitors are really fascinated by your sustainability initiatives, you could spend more time in that green rooftop garden, and maybe a little less time in the mailroom.
Yeah, I think most people would be happy with that trade-off.
The key is to be observant, be adaptable. Notice what's really piquing their interest and adjust accordingly.
It's like reading the energy of the group and responding in real time. Now, what about those moments when you can just sense the energy's dipping a little? Maybe you've been walking and talking for a while and people are starting to zone out a bit.
Yeah. Those are the times when I like to utilize what I call strategic staging posts.
Staging posts. Wait, are we talking about actual physical locations?
Absolutely.
Huh.
These are specific points on your tour where you can naturally pause, regroup, and kind of reassess the situation. Maybe it's a beautiful atrium with some comfortable seating, a cafe with a nice view, even a small breakout area with refreshments.
Oh, okay. It's like a pit stop on a road trip, right? Everyone gets a chance to stretch their legs, grab a drink, and refocus. That sounds so much better than just endlessly marching through hallways.
Yeah. And these pauses, they give you a chance to subtly check in with the group. Notice their body language. Are they engaged? Are they asking questions? Are their eyes glazing over? And then you can kind of adjust your approach based on those cues.
So we're not just blindly following a script, we're really being mindful of the human element and adapting as we go. I love that.
Exactly. Now, speaking of adapting, let's talk about those times when you have a really diverse group of visitors with different backgrounds, different interests. How do you make sure everyone feels included and informed?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've definitely been on tours where it felt like I was speaking different languages to different people. Some want all the technical details, others just want the big picture.
Right. Well, this is where what I call the art of layering your information comes in. So let's say you're showcasing your company's state-of-the-art video conferencing system.
I can already imagine all the different perspectives in the room.
You might start by explaining those business benefits to the executives, right? This system allows us to connect seamlessly with our global teams, saving time and travel costs. Then, for those tech-savvy folks, you might delve into the technical specs. We're using cutting-edge noise cancellation technology and 4K resolution for crystal clear communication. And then, for those who are more visually oriented, you could say something like, notice how the system's intuitive design makes it so easy to use, even for those who aren't, tech wizards.
So you're catering to all those different levels of understanding without leaving anyone behind. It's great.
Exactly. And you're not just showcasing technology, you're really demonstrating your company's ability to connect and collaborate with all sorts of audiences.
It's like those choose your own adventure books. Everyone's on the same journey, but they can kind of personalize the experience based on their own interests.
I love that analogy. And here's another technique that I think can really elevate your tour game. It's what I call the connection cascade.
Connection cascade. Okay, I'm listening.
So throughout your tour, you subtly connect different areas, different functions to show how everything fits together.
Okay, I like where this is going. Give me an example.
Let's say you've just shown off the creative brainstorming area.
Right.
As you move towards the product development lab, you might say something like, remember all those amazing ideas we saw being generated back in the ideation space? Well, this is where those ideas come to life. Our product development team takes those raw concepts and actually turns them into, tangible prototypes.
So you're painting this picture of a seamless process. Where ideas flow effortlessly from one stage to the next.
Precisely. And by highlighting those connections, you're not just showing a bunch of random rooms, right? You're revealing the inner workings of this, dynamic, innovative company.
It makes the whole experience so much more meaningful. Now let's be real for a minute. No matter how well we plan, there will always be those curveball questions that can throw a tour off track.
Ah, yes, the unexpected questions. They're inevitable, but with the right techniques, you can handle them gracefully and even, turn them into opportunities to highlight your company's strengths.
Oh, I love that. Okay, give me those techniques. I'm all about turning those office tour lemons into lemonade.
Well, one of my favorites is the bridge and bookmark technique.
Bridge and bookmark. Okay, now I'm picturing like a mental map with little flags marking all the points of interest.
You got it. So let's say someone asks about your employee wellness program, but you're in the middle of showing off your, super high-tech robotics lab.
Oh yeah, happens all the time.
You could say something like, that's a fantastic question about our wellness program. It's something we're really passionate about, and we'll actually be seeing a great example of that in just a few minutes when we visit our fitness center. But first, let me tell you about this amazing piece of technology.
So you're acknowledging their question, staying in control of the flow, and kind of planting a seed for later.
Exactly. You're showing that you value their curiosity while still keeping the tour on track. And it creates a little anticipation for what's to come.
Yeah, it's like a little teaser trailer for the next exciting stop on our tour. Now, as we approach the end of the tour, how do we wrap things up effectively? We don't want to just abruptly stop and say, well, that's it.
No, you're absolutely right. The end of your tour, it's just as important as the beginning. You want to leave your visitors feeling satisfied with a positive, lasting impression. That's why I like to use what I call the soft close technique.
Soft close. Tell me more.
So as you approach that final stop on your tour, start weaving in some subtle summaries of what you've seen and those key messages you want to emphasize.
Okay, so instead of just showing the last room and saying, and this is our cafeteria, you
could say something like, as we've seen throughout our tour today, from those collaborative workspaces to the innovative technology, everything here is designed to empower our employees to do their best work. And speaking of doing their best work, this is where our team recharges and refuels. Our cafeteria featuring, healthy, locally sourced ingredients.
So you're bringing it all together, right? Leaving them with a lasting impression that connects back to the company's values, to the culture.
Precisely. It's about creating that sense of coherence, showing how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together.
It's like you're tying a nice little bow on the whole experience.
I like that. And to leave those visitors feeling truly inspired, I also like to use a technique I call the future hook.
Ooh, future hook. Sounds exciting. What's that?
Well, it's about ending your tour with a little glimpse of what's to come. Spark their curiosity and leave them wanting more. You could say something like, while today you've seen our current workspace, we're already planning for the future. We're constantly exploring new ways to enhance the employee experience, incorporating the latest technologies and sustainable design principles into our next phase of development.
Ooh, it's like leaving them with a little cliffhanger. They're going to walk away thinking, wow, that company's really on the move.
Exactly. You want them to leave feeling energized, excited, and maybe just a little bit envious of your amazing workspace.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling so much more prepared and confident to tackle my next office tour.
That's great to hear. And remember, even with all the planning and preparation in the world, things will inevitably go wrong sometimes. So it's important to stay calm, be adaptable, and just embrace those unexpected moments. They often make for the most memorable stories.
Speaking of stories, I'm kind of curious to hear about some of those office tour mishaps and how you handle them with grace and style.
Ooh, I've got some stories.
Let's dive into those next level techniques in part 3.
All right, so you want to hear some stories, huh? Well, buckle up. Because in this final part of our deep dive, we're going beyond the basics. We're talking about those ninja-level techniques for handling unexpected challenges during a tour. The kind of stuff that really sets a great tour guide apart from the rest.
Oh, I am so ready for this. Hit me with those pro tips.
Let's start with a scenario that I'm sure we've all encountered at some point. That dreaded moment when you've carefully planned your route, only to find out that a key room on your tour is suddenly unavailable. Maybe there's an important meeting happening or some last-minute maintenance work.
Yeah. That's happened to me more times than I can count. And it's always the room I was most excited to show off.
Right. It can be so frustrating. But here's the thing. Instead of panicking or apologizing profusely, see this as an opportunity to showcase your company's flexibility and adaptability. I call this the seamless pivot technique.
Seamless pivot. Okay, I like the sound of that already.
So let's say you're about to show off your impressive conference room, but when you get there, it's full of executives and a deep strategic discussion. Instead of fumbling or saying, "Oh, sorry, we can't go in there, try something like this," you're actually in luck. This gives us a chance to see our flexible workspace strategy in action. While this room is currently being used for a high-level brainstorming session, we can easily adapt to any scenario. Notice how the glass walls allow for visual transparency while maintaining acoustic privacy. It's a key element of our dynamic workspace design.
Wow, you've turned a potential obstacle into a showcase of your company's agile work style. It's like you're saying, hey, we're so busy innovating that we can barely keep up with the demand for meeting space.
Exactly. And it subtly reinforces that image of a successful, thriving company. All right, now let's talk about those off-topic questions. The ones that seem to come out of nowhere and can completely derail a tour. I once had a visitor ask me about our company's charitable giving program while we were standing right in the middle of our high-tech robotics lab.
Oh my gosh, I can totally relate. It's like, hello, we're in the robotics lab. Can we stay focused?
I know. And it's tempting to just steer the conversation back on track. But a more skillful approach is to use what I call the bookmark and bridge technique.
Bookmark and bridge. Okay, I'm intrigued.
So let's say someone asks you about, I don't know, your company's parental leave policy while you're busy showcasing that awesome 3D printer. Instead of dismissing their question, you could say something like, "That's a fantastic question. It's something we're very proud of, and I'd be happy to share more details. Would you prefer me to do that now? Or would you like to wait until we reach the employee benefits display, where you can see some visuals and get some additional information?"
Oh, that's so smart. You're acknowledging their question, offering them options, and subtly regaining control of the tour flow. It's a win-win. Now, what about those times when you can sense that some people in the group are way more engaged than others? Some are totally hanging on your every word, while others seem to be, like, checking their phones or just completely zoning out.
Right. Well, in those situations, I like to use what I call the engagement ripple. It's all about using your energy strategically.
Engagement ripple. Okay, I'm visualizing a pebble being dropped into a pond.
Exactly. Start by focusing your attention and energy towards the people who are most engaged. Their enthusiasm can actually be contagious, and then use subtle body language cues like eye contact and gestures to gently draw those other folks back in.
So it's like you're creating a wave of engagement that gradually spreads throughout the whole group.
Precisely. You're encouraging everyone to participate without, putting anyone on the spot. Now, let's talk about everyone's least favorite office tour moment. Technical difficulties. When your perfectly planned presentation decides to take an unexpected break.
Ugh, don't even remind me. It's like the technology can sense your fear, and then it just decides to completely betray you at the worst possible moment.
It happens to the best of us. But here's the thing. Instead of fumbling with cables or frantically calling IT, try using what I call the story bridge technique.
Story bridge.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm listening.
No. So let's imagine you're all set to showcase your incredible interactive digital whiteboard, and then boom, it freezes. Screen goes blank.
Oh, I can feel the awkward silence already.
Right. But instead of letting that awkwardness take over, try this. You say something like, "While our amazing tech team works their magic behind the scenes, let me share a quick story about how this technology completely revolutionized our brainstorming process. It actually led to a 30% increase in innovative ideas. Our team was initially a little skeptical, but once they saw how easy it was to capture and share their ideas, they were totally hooked. It's been a game changer for our whole creative process."
I love that. You've turned a potential disaster into an engaging anecdote, and you've highlighted the benefits of the technology even when it's not working. It's like you're saying, hey, even when our tech takes a little nap, the results speak for themselves.
Exactly. And it keeps the energy up while giving the tech team a chance to, work their magic behind the scenes. All right, now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about those special touches, the ones that can really elevate an office tour from good to truly unforgettable.
Yes, the little things that make a big difference. Tell me everything.
It's all about being present, being observant, and picking up on those little nonverbal cues. Make those little micro adjustments as needed. Are people looking up at the ceiling with interest? Maybe point out the architect's innovative use of natural light or those really cool acoustic panels that create such a calm and focused atmosphere. See someone running their hand along a textured wall. Take a moment to talk about the sustainable materials used in the building or, the local artists who created those one-of-a-kind pieces.
Oh, I love that. It's like you're reading their minds and responding to their unspoken curiosities. It makes the tour feel so much more personalized and engaging.
And as we wrap up our deep dive into the art of giving truly unforgettable office tours, remember this. Practice makes perfect, of course, but authenticity is what makes a tour memorable. Find your own unique style, infuse your tours with your personality and your passion, and most importantly, have fun. When you're genuinely enjoying yourself, your enthusiasm is going to be contagious, and your visitors are going to have a truly memorable experience.
I think that's such fantastic advice. It's not about being a robot and just reciting a script. It's about bringing your own energy and genuine enthusiasm to the tour.
Absolutely, that's what makes it special.
Well, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've just leveled up my tour guide skills in a big way. I'm so ready to go out there and impress some visitors.
I love to hear that. That's what we like to hear.
And to everyone listening out there, we'd love to hear about your office tour experiences, the good, the bad, the awkward.
Yeah.
Share your stories, and maybe we'll feature them in a future deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.